The United States intensified its military operations in the Caribbean Sea, marking a significant escalation in its efforts to combat narco-trafficking and regional instability. At the heart of these operations was the U.S. Navy's amphibious assault ship, the USS Iwo Jima LHD-7, which played a central role in launching a series of operations from the coast of Puerto Rico. These operations were aimed at disrupting the flow of illicit drugs through the Caribbean and enforcing U.S. foreign policy, particularly in relation to Venezuela. The military's increased presence in the region coincided with rising tensions between the U.S. and the Venezuelan government. President Donald Trump, in his aggressive stance against Venezuela, issued a stark warning that the airspace over and near Venezuela should be completely closed. This comment underscored the escalating diplomatic and military confrontations between the U.S. and Venezuela, which has long been a source of contention due to its alleged ties to drug cartels and its defiance of U.S. sanctions. The USS Iwo Jima served as a launch pad for U.S. Marines, whose operations were filmed in various close-up shots taken throughout September. These Marines were seen actively engaged in both maritime and land-based operations aimed at enhancing U.S. military influence in the Caribbean. Their operations focused on improving coordination with Puerto Rican authorities and strengthening the U.S. military's ability to monitor and intercept drug trafficking activities in the region. The footage highlighted the Marines' preparedness for the type of complex missions that are vital to U.S. operations in the region. The U.S. Navy's presence was reinforced by its strategic use of aircraft, including the MV-22B Osprey, which was deployed aboard the USS San Antonio LPD-17. The Osprey's ability to conduct rapid troop movements and logistics operations in remote or challenging areas proved essential for U.S. military strategy in the Caribbean. As U.S. military assets conducted operations in the Caribbean, President Trump's aggressive rhetoric regarding Venezuela continued to escalate. His direct statement about closing the airspace near Venezuela indicated the growing confrontation between Washington and Caracas. This rhetoric was further complemented by the ongoing military buildup, which was seen as a response to the Venezuelan government's increasing reliance on criminal organizations and its continued defiance of U.S. sanctions. The U.S. government had already accused Venezuela of providing safe harbor to drug traffickers and supporting illicit activities across Latin America. And the Trump administration made it clear that it would take all necessary steps to prevent these activities from destabilizing the region further. The deployment of U.S. military forces in the Caribbean Sea is not solely about countering narco-trafficking. It also sends a powerful message to the Venezuelan government and its allies. The Trump administration's military buildup is part of a broader effort to curb Venezuela's influence and to prevent the country from furthering its alliances with powers like Russia and China, who have provided varying degrees of support to the Maduro regime. For the U.S., these operations are a clear attempt to maintain control over the region, secure its interests, and prevent any potential adversaries from gaining a foothold in the Western Hemisphere. In addition to the direct military presence, the EU government has worked to strengthen alliances with other Latin American countries, particularly Colombia and Brazil, which share concerns about Venezuela's growing power and influence. These alliances have been key to the U.S. strategy of isolating Venezuela diplomatically and economically, and they serve as a counterbalance to the Venezuelan government's ties with Russia and China. The diplomatic pressure on Venezuela continues to mount, with the EU seeking to isolate the regime through sanctions, international condemnation, and increasing military pressure in the Caribbean and along its borders. The U.S. military's operations in the Caribbean have broader implications beyond Venezuela. The region has long been a hotbed for narco-trafficking, and the U.S. has worked tirelessly to disrupt the illegal flow of drugs that pass through the Caribbean before reaching U.S. shores. With U.S. forces operating in the Caribbean, the focus has shifted toward intercepting these trafficking routes and cutting off the supply of illicit drugs, which have fueled crime and violence both in Latin America and in the U.S. mainland. The presence of U.S. military assets in the Caribbean not only aims to curtail narco-trafficking, but also serves as a reminder of the United States' unwavering commitment to maintaining security in its sphere of influence. The Trump administration's rhetoric about closing the airspace over Venezuela is part of a broader narrative of increased military and diplomatic confrontation with the Maduro regime. The U.S. has accused Venezuela of aiding and abetting drug cartels and other criminal organizations. And Trump's statements indicate the seriousness of the U.S. response to these activities. By making such statements, the Trump administration is signaling its willingness to take more aggressive action, including military intervention, to safeguard its interests and those of its allies in the region. As of September 2025, the U.S. military's operations in the Caribbean continue to evolve. While these operations focus on narco-trafficking and military engagement with local authorities, they are also part of a larger geopolitical strategy aimed at limiting Venezuela's influence and curbing the spread of criminal activity across Latin America. The military operations in the region serve as a clear demonstration of U.S. power and its ability to project military force in strategic locations to safeguard its interests. The Trump administration's strategy in the Caribbean is one that is designed to send a message not only to Venezuela, but also to other nations in the region. The deployment of U.S. military assets and the rhetoric surrounding Venezuela's airspace serve as a signal that the United States is willing to confront any threat to its national security, regardless of where it originates. For Venezuela, the pressure from the U.S. is mounting, with the Trump administration taking increasingly aggressive actions in an attempt to weaken the Maduro regime and curtail its influence over the region. While the situation in the Caribbean remains volatile, the United States is committed to ensuring its strategic interests are maintained. The ongoing U.S. military operations in the region reflect both the Trump administration's priorities in the fight against drug trafficking and its broader geopolitical agenda. These operations, coupled with the administration's diplomatic efforts, underscore the United States' determination to uphold its influence in Latin America, even as tensions with Venezuela and its allies continue to escalate. As of now, U.S. military operations in the Caribbean Sea remain a focal point of the U.S. government's approach to maintaining security in the Western Hemisphere. The ongoing deployment of forces in the region, alongside the diplomatic and economic measures aimed at Venezuela, suggests that tensions will likely remain high in the near future. With both sides preparing for prolonged engagement, the situation in the Caribbean is poised to continue influencing U.S.-Venezuela relations and broader regional dynamics. As U.S. forces remain active in the Caribbean, it is clear that the U.S. is committed to ensuring that Venezuela and its allies do not expand their influence further. Whether through direct military intervention, diplomatic efforts, or economic pressure, the United States has made it clear that it will take all necessary steps to safeguard its interests and ensure regional stability. The escalation of U.S. military activity in the Caribbean is a powerful reminder of the strategic importance of the region, as well as the lengths the United States is willing to go to protect its interests. The future of U.S.-Venezuela relations, as well as the broader security landscape in Latin America, will depend on the success of these ongoing operations and the diplomatic strategies employed by both sides. As tensions rise in the Caribbean, the world watches closely, waiting to see how the situation will unfold. The U.S. remains steadfast in its commitment to addressing the threats posed by Venezuela and its allies, while Venezuela's government continues to resist U.S. efforts to weaken its position in the region. The situation in the Caribbean Sea remains fluid, with ongoing operations and diplomatic negotiations shaping the future of U.S.-Venezuela relations and the broader geopolitical environment in Latin America. The military's presence in the region is a clear indication that Washington will not allow Venezuela's influence to go unchecked, signaling a continued commitment to its strategic goals in the Western Hemisphere.